In this lesson, we're going to learn about keyframes, the building blocks of animation. Alright, so far you know how to move an object around and change the time, so let's try setting up an animation. Here we have our character on the left side of the screen at frame 1. Let's move to frame 30 and move that character to the right side of the screen. Now when we play this back, we should see him move from left to right. But what happens is that the character just stays where it is. The computer doesn't remember where he was at frame 1 because we never told the computer to remember that position. To create an animation, the computer needs to mark what changes we've made to our objects, and we can do that by setting a keyframe. Computer animation is nothing more than attributes changing over time. To track those attributes, we have to set a keyframe to tell the computer that we want our object to be here at this time. Think of a keyframe like a box that holds the value of an attribute on that particular frame. You need at least 2 keyframes with different stored values to create an animation because the computer needs a change in an attribute to animate. To set a keyframe, we can click the key button. So if we move the time back to frame 1 and move the character to -5 on the x-axis, we can set a keyframe. The computer now knows that he is at -5 on frame 1. Now let's change the time over to frame 60, move our character to +5 on the x-axis, and we'll set another keyframe. Now when we play back, we have an animation. The character moves smoothly from -5x to +5x. You'll notice that when we set a keyframe, this little box appears on our time slider. These are keyframes, and we can edit them on the time slider. You can see our current animation takes about 2 seconds. But what if we want to speed it up? Well, we can just select the keyframe on the time slider and drag it to frame 30. Now when we play the animation, it happens in 1 second instead of 2. This way of setting keyframes is okay for a simple animation like this, but when we start to animate dozens of things on our screen, we're going to have to save time wherever we can. Now we can cut out the step of actually clicking the Set Key button by turning on Auto Key. Now what Auto Key does is it sets a key on the current time whenever we change an object's keyable attribute. This can be a double-edged sword because if you don't change the time, you will just be overriding the same key over and over again. But with a little practice, Auto Key can help you animate much more efficiently. Let's quickly recreate our example. So we'll turn on Auto Key and set the first keyframe on frame 1. Now all we do is change the time to frame 60 and move the object. There, we have our animation. In this lesson, we learned about keyframes, the building blocks of animation, and how to use Auto Key to animate faster. In the next lesson, we'll learn about the dope sheet,